I think people like this have a body count, probably. If there's a genocide, this person is an active participant because he is like fear-mongering. He is freaking people out.
Jewish people still exist, but a genocide still happened during the Holocaust, as an example.
This is who you're listening to. A guy who needed Magic the Gathering to learn how to speak to other humans.
So these are the stages of genocide. These are effectively irrefutable. These are based entirely on experts who have studied acts of genocide.
Maybe it's experts that should be making those links and not people like you, suris.
2025, 687 anti-trans bills active in every single state.
Extreme bills and wild legislative proposals, they get introduced all the time.
Yeah, interestingly, this sort of makes the whole, oh, well, there's this many anti-trans bills in America and it's like 500 and something. That makes that number look kind of small, does it not? If there's like thousands just in one state, and then we're going to go around saying, oh, well, there's 500 or whatever anti-trans bills being introduced. It kind of makes it sound a bit more like a drop in the ocean, no?
Give that politician hell. I am saying harass the f out of them. If they want to be part of the genocidal process, then they can be part of the reason they're talking. Then you can be part of the reason that they're having to talk to a goddamn therapist.
I love you, Mary.
So I don't know if people remember, I think it was about a year and like 2.5 years ago, maybe. There was a lot of this this rhetoric going around about there being a genocide in the US against trans people. Apparently that's back. We got Suris, I've watched him before. He's not trans, he's a man who usually has a little lolly avatar. My personal theory is there's some AGP there. There's perhaps a desire to transition, but perhaps knows that he wouldn't be happy doing so. Which is fair enough. I respect that. You know, it's better to not do something you know will only, or you know won't help. You know what I mean? But this is a bit much for me. There is a genocide in the US, and it's almost 50 minutes long. I don't personally think there's a trans genocide. I think we're about 1 million miles away from that. But yeah, let's have a look. Trans people are under genocide, apparently. Let's see. See what I mean? Lolly, he's like slightly younger than me and like very male looking.
So I'm just going to get right.
See, this has changed. Listen, pause, Andy. I don't care. This is interesting. I guess because we don't want to appropriate the trans stuff. Suddenly we're gonna, oh, we've got some executive order stuff coming up. How nice. This has definitely got nothing to do with me, but I'm taking credit, having called him an AGP a bunch, for having a little lolly girl avatar with way too big breasts. Suddenly we're a man again. Didn't want to be the lolly girl for this one. Wonder why. Anyway.
Right into it. This is going to be one of the hardest videos that I have ever shot. And
yeah, you're gonna have to lie a hell of a lot.
And it's not because of something massive that's happened to me, though there is technically a bit of a change in perspective that has happened that has colored how I'm going to approach this video. Now, for those of you who have followed my channel for a while...
Oh, these are probably meant to be packs. He only has big bits when he's pretending to be a little girl.
You'll know that I have a video called There Are 10 Steps to Genocide. And in that video...
Yeah, there's 10 steps that have been laid out. That doesn't mean that something following those 10 steps is a genocide. You have to remember that a genocide is like an active attempt to wipe out a group of people, which is going to be very difficult to do to trans because A, you can't sterilize them because they're sterilizing themselves, and B, being trans is an identity. It's calling yourself something. How can you stop that from propagating? You can like try and limit things like exposing children to it because it's not good to expose children to it. The thing is, if something satisfies any of these one conditions that apparently make it a genocide, that doesn't actually mean that that's one step towards a genocide, because it depends on the reasons for that. It depends what's actually happening. Oh, hi, Skye Vitiritti. I hope you're good.
I articulate many of the things that have happened to the trans community in the last few years that can be labeled as steps towards genocide.
Yeah, it can be labeled as. That doesn't mean they are. It doesn't mean they should be, like, thought of that way. Skye, do you not remember, like, a few years ago, There was someone called Polly People that was running around pushing this trans genocide stuff, and she's like deleted almost all her content, which is a shame because this person was hilarious. But like, yeah, a couple of years ago, everyone was making these like trans genocide videos, and we've started it up again. It wasn't true last time. It's not true this time. It's ridiculous, but hey. But yeah, I don't know if you remember, like a couple of years ago, for a while, people were running around, everyone was saying this kind of stuff, and it just died down. Because just saying that this looks like a genocide, like, I don't know, man. Just because you're saying that that's the case, it doesn't mean that's actually what's happening. And it's very easy to see the reasons as to why people are pushing this kind of stuff.
I want to go ahead and make the case today, as much as it is not going to be easy to. I want to make the case today that I think we've actually gone through every single step.
So if we've gone through every single step, but people aren't like mass being killed, how is it a genocide? Because we're not sterilizing trans people. We can't. You could argue we're kind of trying to stop the identity thing. But there's reasons why you might want to in children. And if you're an adult, ultimately you can call yourself what you want. You can do what you want. And things like restricting healthcare or restricting healthcare, that's not like, you don't actually even need that to be trans anyway. I remember Erin Reed talking about trans genocide in Florida way back when and how you couldn't go there before she went to vacation in Florida. Yeah, that sounds about right. Jesus Christ. I despise Erin Reed, and I would be surprised if this person hasn't taken any cues from Erin Reed, quite frankly. I mean, all these are activist things. Listen, stop listening to activists. You could fix your mental health very easily that way.
And
most of these people support Palestine. Is this not insulting to their cause? It should be, but no. I mean, I don't personally think that what's going on there is a genocide, but it's a bit gauche to compare. You know, if you're going to say which is more genocidal, the deaths of Palestinians or trans people having some rules put against them now, obviously the former is much more similar. It's like we're finding all these steps, but missing out the part where anyone gets killed or sterilized. Because we're sterilizing ourselves, so we can't make that argument in the first place.
I want to start that off by asking you, if you were an organization that learned from history, that learned that the world, on the whole, responded to the idea of genocide by sending militaries into a country.
Yeah, we're talking about the Nazis, we're talking about the Jews, 6 million murdered in gas chambers. None of that is happening to trans people. Potentially it never will. Because the thing is, if you are learning from history, what would happen is you'd see a country killing off a bunch of people, and then a whole bunch of other countries are going to go to war with that country. So it's not really an amazing idea, is it? If we're actually learning from history, other countries don't tend to take it well when one country starts killing a specific group of people. Like, already we're kicking ourselves in the shins with these terrible arguments.
And taking it down.
Yeah, so if there was actually one of these things happening, why is no one trying to stop the US from genociding trans people? Well, none of them are dying, really. They kill themselves sometimes. We have a high suicide rate for a lot of different reasons.
What lesson would you take from that? There are a couple lessons you can take from it. One is that people on the whole do not like it when a country is involved in a mass killing, and therefore you probably shouldn't do those things.
A mass killing. So how are we going to make this about trans people then? When there's no mass killings happening. It's just not happening.
It's based solely on the understanding that most of us are not really big fans of those things. But there...
Almost 500,000 Tutsis were murdered in a month in 1994. Was that the Rwandan thing? Hang on. Yeah, Rwandan genocide. Yeah, I know bits and pieces about this. Yeah, this would have been presumably in his lifetime. He was born. He's a couple of years younger than me, I think, which is, you've seen what he looks like, is a bit terrifying, but never mind. But yeah, like, this is a genocide. 500,000 people killed in like 100 days. This is a genocide. This is people being killed off en masse. People, yeah, targeting members of the minority Tutsi community, going after specific groups of people and killing them. That's a genocide. And I guess I don't agree with the arguments that Israel is genociding Palestinians, but I at least can see the logic that they're trying to exterminate a group of people that they perceive as being on their turf and stuff. I just noticed the cattail. They can't help themselves, can they? Yeah, I don't know. Peter Pan syndrome. I don't know. Something like that. I think he's made any videos about the Syrians mass murdering Christians these past couple of weeks. Almost certainly not, no. And like I said, I don't personally see like Gaza as a genocide, but I at least see the arguments. At least people are dying. People are being killed by another group of people. There's at least some link there. Like, Jesus Christ, I'm going off when I've barely even seen this stupid video, but like, just the idea of there being a trans genocide automatically just sets something off in me. I think it's disgusting. I think we're fear-mongering on a whole nother level. And like these societies, they're not like Western societies. They're often very oppressive to certain groups of people. Urging people to weed out the cockroaches. Who's saying that about trans people? Syrian massacre leaves Christians asking if they're next. Save Syria's Christians. Spectator, don't know about this one, but we're just looking at it anyway. Christians being targeted in Syria, potentially. There's an element of opinion being shown here, but ultimately, obviously something is happening. And these are people actually being killed. But instead we're trying to justify calling some adverse situations for some trans people in the US, supposed land of the free, as a genocide. This is why they're invading Congo. Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, Trump is talking about intervening. See, if they were actually killing trans people, there'd be a lot of other countries with something to say about it. You've got Rwanda attacking Congo, and you've got other countries that have something to say about it. You've got Trump talking about this. Yeah, against the M23 rebels and Rwandan forces leading an offensive in eastern DR Congo. And they're potentially going off against these Tutsi people, is that what we're saying? I don't know much about this story. It's the first time looking at this. But it's like his own point, like, disproves him. Yeah, other countries don't like it when you start going around killing people. But nothing's happening in other countries towards the US. It's just not the same. They're crucifying Christians in Syria. This dude, to use genocide to me is hate speech, and I'm offended. It is offensive. It is offensive to call what's going on in America a trans genocide. Like, there's no other way of putting it. It's pretty disgusting. The reason you do that is not because that's actually happening. It's because you want people to see something as worse than it is. It's propaganda. You're like scaremongering.
There's another lesson that could be...
Women in Afghanistan are facing genocide. They're treated like subhumans, baby-making machines. Well, I don't know if they're facing genocide. They wouldn't want to kill all the women because they need them. And choose not to intervene. Oh, no, I'm missing stuff. But you won't hear Sam Lux or Jenny Dodger or Nick or any of this talking about it. That is true. That is true. And hey, do you know who you will hear talking about it? J.K. Rowling, who apparently is not a feminist because she won't talk about abortion. So, I don't know.
Learned there. And it's the lesson that if you're going to engage in a genocide, you need to make it as invisible as humanly possible.
Yeah, so here's all an invisible genocide. Like, it's just ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous.
Now, again, I know I've probably lost a lot of people. If you're...
Yeah, very true. Because you're comparing what's going on in the US to like the Holocaust or something. As if the Nazis were acting more secretively. But it's the US this time. And that's just not happening. I don't care.
Watching on YouTube. Either some of you have hopped off because there's a cartoon avatar with a bunch of Vulpixes behind him and a chat box there, so obviously...
Well, yes, you do look like a man-child, but I think you are a man-child, so I'm fine with that.
This can't be a well-prepared video because it's a live stream by an amateur. For those of you who are still here despite all that, thank you very much. And for those of you who are here despite readily typing away in the comments how there is no genocide happening in the United States, you would know if there is one. I'd like to point out that most of the regular citizens in Germany wouldn't have called what they were doing genocide until everything had already gone down. So let's go ahead and...
That does not mean that there's a genocide in the US. That means nothing. The world isn't like 1940s Germany. I'm sorry.
Make sure that it's abundantly clear, nobody who is...
Isn't America not one of the most trans-accepting countries in the world? Yes, it is, yeah. Trans, like, for the most part, started in the West, you know what I mean? It's like a Western thing. There's other cultures that have had other kind of supposed third genders that kind of resemble trans somewhat, but how we understand trans in a country like mine or in a country like the US, it's a Western thing. Mostly Western people doing it. And in countries that aren't considered Western, often, like, trans people are, like, horribly persecuted, which is not good. The tiny animals. He's in front of Pokemon Snap for some reason. I think he's trying to lean into the man-child thing for some reason, but also trying to look buff for once. I don't understand.
Actively involved in the, you know, in the act of a genocide is going to actively say that they are. But that said,
that also doesn't mean that there's a genocide. Hitler thought he was good and right, ordering Jews to be murdered.
Let me go ahead and show you all where my argument is coming from primarily. So these
10 stages of genocide, I'm like automatically suspicious because you could probably fit lots of things to at least some of these stages, possibly most in some cases. But that doesn't mean that there's a genocide going on. Oh, Holocaust Memorial Day Trust. This is his source. Yep, here we go. You can see it right here. God, I can't. See if I can zoom in. And by the way, you see Nazis, you see German citizenship, Nazis. We're basing this primarily off of the Holocaust. The classification, we literally label ourselves. We literally label ourselves as different. Queer is all about highlighting our differences instead of our similarities with so-called normal people. We're doing that to ourselves. Like, symbolization. What are trans people being forced to wear? Like, discrimination, dehumanization, I can kind of see. But then again, as well, some queer people dehumanize themselves. You know what I mean? Some queer people want to be referred to as this way. Organization, polarization. I mean, Jesus Christ, people are polarized about everything these days. Preparation, persecution, extermination. Well, we're definitely not on the stage of extermination. You can't exterminate ideas. And to be trans means to call yourself trans. I didn't want it to be that way. I thought it should actually mean something. Maybe based on like gender dysphoria or something. But my side lost on that. So it's just an identity. So it's just calling yourself something. You can't exterminate those. You can exterminate people that publicly go around identifying as that, but they're not doing that. It just doesn't make it. Like, none of this makes sense. I would love to see. I'd love to see how he makes any of this work. I can already tell this is ridiculous.
These are the stages of genocide.
And these aren't the stages of genocide. This is what someone has come up with. This doesn't actually mean that everything that follows this is a genocide. I guess by the time you get to extermination, maybe. But stuff like this, you risk people taking some of this and being like, well, we're most of the way to this genocide or that genocide, when we're not. And like, what have we got? We've got examples. The Holocaust, Nazi persecution of other groups, Cambodia, Rwanda, Bosnia, Darfur. I wonder if he looks at this. First devised the concept of genocide in response to the atrocities perpetrated against the Armenian population of the Ottoman Empire. Yeah, like there was millions of people of the same thing, of the same group being killed. I mean, you could make arguments for something like the Chinese, like Uyghur genocide. And that's like a bloodless genocide. That's like sterilizing people and stuff. Because that's another way of stopping their bloodline. And that's ultimately what it's about. You can't really stop a trans bloodline. You can kill some trans people. Some more cis people might decide that they're trans now. Or the Holocaust. So genocide starts with the Holocaust. Maybe. This is suggesting, okay. Well, it says here, 11th of December 1946, General Assembly of the United Nations resolved that genocide was a crime under international law. This was approved and ratified at a Convention of the Prevention and Punishment of Crime of Genocide on 9th of December 1948. Defines genocide as any of the following acts committed with intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnical, racial or religious group. Well, unless we're deciding that trans is a religious group now, this doesn't fit. And I wonder if he's even read this part. Maybe he has, I don't know. Just him. There's some text there, but I don't think that is it. Does he read this page? I wonder if he does. Oh, we spend some time on this. Oh, there's this many anti-trans bills. And then you look at them and a bunch of them are about things like sports and like children, which trans people are divided on anyways. How are they anti-trans? Don't we get any say in what we consider anti-trans? I hate those like bill trackers. All it is in service of letting you say, oh, there's this many anti-trans bills. And just keeping it as vague as possible and not actually explaining what bills these are and what effects they're having. And how many of them even pass, which is not very many of them, by the way. But yeah, I don't know if he's even looked at this page. I didn't see anything in there suggesting this. Skye vitiritti addresses this. Trans genocide, fear-mongering head-on, researchers' actual laws, prescriptions. Yeah, I know Skye. She was in my chat earlier. Her videos are good, I recommend. Do you not know like, this little thing that happened called the Crusades? Probably not. Cenk denies the Armenian genocide, does he? Yeah. I know, I'm not a big TYT fan. Sometimes Cenk says some stuff I agree with. Sometimes he says stuff I think is pretty unhinged. So killing members of the group, bodily or mental harm. So this is one of the things that we're going to use to try and do that. In the meantime, one could argue that trans is doing this to like autistic people, but never mind. Let's not go there. Deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction or whole in part. Again, these are things that we can like twist and turn. But is this actually happening? Is this actually happening? Like, how do you do that to an identity group where another person can just identify, even if they can't change anything about themselves? Like, not every trans person wants to anyway. It just seems a bit ridiculous. Imposing measures intended to prevent births within a group obviously doesn't matter. Forcibly transferring children of the group to another group, again, doesn't matter. Children shouldn't be transitioning anyway, and if that's genocidal, then you have lost it, quite frankly. So, genocide, blah, 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 blah. Do not need to lead to deaths to be considered acts of genocide. Serious bodily or mental harm, deprivation of resources such as clean water, food, shelter, or medical services. So this is going to be another thing that is twisted, but this does not mean that there's a trans genocide, not by a long shot. Like denied medical services. That doesn't mean your titty skittles. That means like, oh, sorry, you've got a fucking 12-inch gash down your arm, but we're not going to bandage it or do anything with it. You have to let it rot. That kind of thing. Mental harm, infliction of widespread torture, R-word, and sexual violence. Nothing of this nature. I mean, they might appeal to prisons with stuff like this, but truthfully, trans women are not the only group of males that are at higher risks of sexual assault in prisons. Criminal offense to plan or incite genocide even before the killing starts. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, there we go. So that's his source. That's the poster. I don't think this applies at all to trans people. You're going to be able to link some of these to trans people, but that does not mean that there's genocide. It means that you've made some links. And by the way, they're just doing this because they want to fearmonger. Like, this guy sucks.
Effectively irrefutable. These are the things that you... That said, let me go ahead and show you all where my argument is coming from primarily. So these are the stages of genocide. These are effectively irrefutable.
I don't know what he means when he says that. These are irrefutable? Well, someone's laid out what they think the stages of genocide are. Like, it's on a Holocaust Memorial Day Trust. It's like a group that has some opinions. Like, more than likely, if I look through them in general, yeah, I'd probably agree. It's what you're going to do with this that's the problem. But we're saying even this, like, it's irrefutable. Well, what does that mean? This means that this is a genocide? Okay, sure.
These are the things that you look for when determining if a genocide is happening. And the reason I say these are effectively irrefutable is...
Yeah, this doesn't mean random dipshits look at this and start sticking things together from groups that are not being killed off by anyone, except themselves mostly. And men, upon realizing that they're about to have sex with someone else that also has a penis.
These are based entirely on experts who have studied acts of genocide everywhere.
There we go, appeal to authority. People like this kind of thing. It's very easy to say, oh, well, the experts are saying it. That doesn't mean that this is a trans genocide. This doesn't mean that random fucks should start looking at this and making connections. I would argue, if this is like expert shit, maybe it's experts that should be making those links and not people like you, suris.
A couple things to get out of the way real quick. A genocide does not have to be successful to be a genocide. Jewish people still exist, but a genocide still happened during the Holocaust, as an example. Also, a genocide does not need to be at the stage of extermination to be a genocide, but hopefully I can at least convince some of you all that we are at the red flag area of stage 9.
Yes, hopefully I can scaremonger a bunch of you. We're at stage 9 is extermination. The hate group murders their intended victims in a deliberate and systematic campaign of violence. That's not happening. I'm sorry.
At least to a degree. Again, I will get to there, I promise. But first of all, let's go ahead and read through what each of these stages say so that we can figure out kind of why I am coming to where I am. So stage 1 is the classification of a people. This is where differences between people are not respected. There's a division of us versus them, which can be carried out using...
Yeah, which trans and queer people do to themselves constantly. There's like a fucking thought cult around being trans. We're the ones doing this, not other people.
Stereotypes, or excluding people who are perceived to be different. Now, this is a hard one for most people to grapple around because it feels...
Have a good one, Amy. Thanks for watching.
Feels like such a low bar, but remember, this is stage 1, and it is not necessary for any of these stages to necessarily scale into the next ones. But I think, well, let me just show you where my argument is coming from for this one. So this is HB 3817 in Texas. This is a House bill that has a very, very simple goal.
Hang on. It's a very simple goal. I don't trust this guy's read of what the goals of anything anyone else is doing because this guy is a ideologue and a hack. Bill to be entitled an act relating to creating a criminal offence of gender identity fraud. Isn't this just about using, like, papers that don't match your gender? If you're trans, you can just change your papers. And wouldn't there hopefully be, like, caveats because it's not going to be possible for everyone?
And, well, despite it being a very simple goal, if you read it, you'll see...
The person knowingly makes a false or misleading verbal or written statement to a government. Yeah, you know, you can... It's not even about, like... You talked about that in detail. Maybe I should have a look. Yeah, false or misleading verbal or written statement to a government entity. Like, this is like Italian footballer shit. You get grazed on the arm and you start flinging yourself around like your leg's been broken. Yes, this is this Texas thing. Like, who was it? Fucking Olivia getting in my shit, telling me that this is the worst thing in the world. And I'm just like, really?
Texas bill just got introduced that would make it a felony to...
There's the Skye Vitiritti's video. Texas gender identity fraud law proposal. Protecting truth or punishing identity.
Put the wrong sex on a government form or an employer document. And some activists are already calling this a genocide. But is that actually true?
Yep, here's an example of them calling it a genocide. Activists prone to exaggeration, lies, all kinds of stuff. If you're trans and you have activist friends, ditch them immediately. It's better for you, trust me.
Is this just another extreme bill that'll die in committee and never make it to a floor vote? Or is this the backlash to transgender activism that many people saw coming? So today, we're going to break it all down, what this bill actually does, what it says, why it was introduced, who it really affects, and what it means for the future of transsexuals caught in the crossfire. First, if this is your first time here, please go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. We are on the road to 1,000. I've made it my personal goal to reach 1,000 subs by April 1st, and your support really helps.
Listen, I recommend subscribing. Skye's videos are good. Lol, I've never changed my name or gender marker. I've literally always gone by. The government doesn't validate my existence. I'm actually the same. I haven't had a GRC or anything, and I mean, I'm not fussed about being legally recognized as a woman. I don't give a shit about that. I'm me regardless. I cannot be genocided because I am me regardless. You want me to officially call myself a man when I'm male anyway, when I'm a man anyway? Then I'll do that. I don't give a fuck. You cannot genocide me.
So, over the weekend, this tweet kind of went viral in a lot of trans...
Like, did Jews have the option of just going along with it and not being killed? No, but we do.
Circles, pro-trans, so the trans activist circles, and the gender critical or the TERF circles. Everyone was sharing this tweet from Becca, the Irish girl bra, and it says TERFs cannot say this isn't a genocide. First, they want to ban trans or non-binary people from accessing life-saving healthcare. Now they want to make these people criminals.
Life-saving healthcare, aka, we'll kill ourselves if you don't give it to us. That isn't life-saving. That's not life-saving by any means.
For the horrendous acts of existing. And there's a headline. So naturally, whenever I see something that's like this, I want to pull up the...
Legal fiction should never have been allowed in the first place. Extra indicators should have been added for females represented men. Maybe, yeah. Definitely the first part I agree with. Like, if you're male and you're an adult, then you're a man, unfortunately. Like, that's what your ID says is at the end of the world. You have to call yourself something when in federal company or whatever. Like, is that the end of the world?
The actual bill and the legislature and go through the process rather than rely on the talking points from either side, because both sides want to scare you to try and sell their point. So I want to live in reality, not talking points. So I went to the Texas legislature website, and here is the bill. It is HB 3817, gender identity and expression is what it's under, and it was filed. So this is a newly introduced bill. So nothing has happened with it yet. You can see it has only been introduced.
Yeah, no idea if this will even pass or not. So if this doesn't pass, isn't this going to make him look a bit stupid? Well, I guess they're trying to genocide. Well, oh, it's tiring. It's so tiring.
Filed. So they haven't talked about it, discussed it, nothing. So this is literally just being filed with the Texas legislature. To put this in perspective, there's over 5,000 bills that have been introduced in the Texas legislature, many of which will never get a vote or get past that introductory stage.
Yeah, interestingly, this sort of makes the whole... oh, well, there's this many anti-trans bills in America, and it's like 500 and something. That makes that number look kind of small, does it not? If there's like thousands just in one state, and then we're going to go around saying, oh, well, there's 500 or whatever anti-trans bills being introduced. That kind of makes it a bit... it kind of makes it sound a bit more like a drop in the ocean, no?
So, keep that in mind. So let's pull up the actual bill, and this is the text of the bill, and I'm going...
It's for validation. Yep, that is very true. I certainly used to seek validation from outside sources more than I do now. I don't know that I found a huge amount to replace it, but I don't know. I think I'm happier. So I'm
going to make this bigger so you can read this, because this is the entire bill as it was introduced, okay? And this has been passed around as well. So I will read the entire language of the bill as it has been introduced. A bill to be enacted, or a bill to be entitled, an act relating to creating the criminal offense of gender identity fraud, be it enacted to the legislature of the state of Texas. Section 1, subchapter D, 7. Gender identity fraud. A person commits an offense if the person knowingly makes a false or misleading verbal or written statement to a government entity or the person's employer by identifying the person's biological sex as the opposite of the biological sex assigned to the person at birth. An offense under this section is a state jail felony. Okay.
by the way, this sounds cooked as fuck to me. I'm not down with this kind of stuff. I think this is ridiculous. Like, I can see why you might need someone to tell the truth about what sex they are in some circumstances. I don't know if treating it as a felony is, like, proportional, you know what I mean?
Okay, so this is what it says. It includes government forms, government employees, it includes legal paperwork, it includes employers, everything. This is directly targeting anyone under any umbrella. This is not just trans, okay? So keep that in mind. This is anyone who checks the boxes or says they are in the opposite sex. So a biological man claims he's a woman, walks into a women's restroom, past a government employee, they would be in violation of this. A transsexual woman shows up for a job interview and presents as female, marks female because they only have male-female, doesn't want to out themselves because they're stealth and all their documentation matches, that would be a felony. So this is a mixed bag of really egregiousness on all sides. And because they are making this a felony, that it's not just a fine or a misdemeanor, this is a serious kind of rollback on transsexual rights from the bill. But you can see the potential consequences. This does have downstream effects. It kind of undoes a lot of the activism that transsexuals did in the late 90s, early 2000s, the kind of work that I did around housing discrimination, around employment discrimination, around these type of things where the use of those markers was not a fraud because there's only two and they weren't kind of tied in. Now with the expansion of gender activism, it has increased. This is a response to
something these people will never like admit or think about or verbalize in any way is how many problems that like some of this trans activism stuff has like raised. But we're supposed to just completely ignore all of that. This seems pretty extreme. Yeah, I agree. I think this is kind of cooked, honestly. I don't know. I tend to err towards like freedom. I tend to err towards saying that you're a man when you're actually a woman probably shouldn't be a fucking felony. I don't know, man. Like if you're doing that in order to do further things, then the further things are probably going to be fairly punishable anyway. You know what I mean? So I'm not actually down with this. But does that mean that this is like genocidal?
Response from public backlash in Texas because transgender activists fought to erase sex-based legal distinctions. This meant allowing self-ID without transition, something that I fought against. This is public backlash to biological males in female sports, something I've been vocal against. This is biological males being placed in women's prisons, many of which have sexual assault or sexual violence histories, something that I've spoken out against and fought against. This is where states have created laws that affirm the gender identities of students or individuals in schools or workplaces, putting the trans individual and their feelings ahead of the feelings and safety of the rest of the school or the parents or the other colleagues. So while one person gets coddled, everyone else is made to feel uncomfortable because of that one person. So this kind of
trans people are the most identity-obsessed, narcissistic people I've ever met in my life. Well, not every trans person is like that, but you certainly get them. I hope you're good. No.
of a backlash where transgender ideology, not trans people per se, but the ideology, this notion of...
Yeah, I agree, Blackie Cat.
Pushing and making everyone uncomfortable, being in their face, saying this is us, it's pushing...
I tell you what's really frustrating. There must be so many people that things like this, they assume that I agree with stuff like that. I fucking don't. Like, if people actually listen to me, they understand that kind of thing, but they don't. They'd rather just go on vibes. Oh, you probably want to kill all trans... Okay, sure. Sure, bro.
Back on the activism that went too far. This is all of the worst outreaches, the exact same stuff that I talked about last week, where biological men and people that were not traditionally seen as transsexuals, because again, none of this was coming about when it was old school transsexual activism. This is all in response to transgender activism, and they're very clear when they talk about this. It's transgenderism, not transgenders, not transsexuals, transgenderism and transgender ideology. But this bill, as short as it is...
I think transsexualism or transgenderism was what I was diagnosed with. I went to a psychiatrist before I could start anything whatsoever, like back when I was 24.
Because there's no exemptions, no carve-outs, no anything. This bill hurts transsexuals. It really hurts transsexuals. It hurts non-op transgenders who are, for whatever reason, fully transitioned with the exception of that surgery, but are just I transitioned, I didn't have the surgery, but I am fully living as my new gender, my new role in society. I'm sort of stealth. I'm not the in-your-face activism. I will call that trans-classic. So if you're trans-classic in this example, you're still being hurt by this because you may not have gone through the legal process to get all of your documents updated. But even if you had, it doesn't matter because this bill still excludes you because I've had all my documents updated and I would be impacted by this. This could be a backlash, meaning that we would be literally back to the type of activism that I was fighting where employers didn't want to hire trans people because they were, and I quote, not worth the hassle. And now...
Oh my God, I've spoken about this. Holy shit. Like, yeah, this is a thing. Like, if we're being a constant pain in the ass, if we're going to raise problems because someone sees me as a man or sees you as a man, and you don't like being called that, so you call it hate speech because someone called you a he. How much of that kind of thing is gonna like potentially promote like employers to just not give trans people a second look? Because we seem like we're too much fucking effort. We seem like it's not worth the fucking hassle. Like, I don't know, again, I wish some activist types would think about this kind of thing, but none of them ever do. It's like there's consequences to going so fucking insane.
This type of thing would mean transsexuals and transgender folks who are more of the trans classic as opposed to the ideological would also now be more of a burden to these, because now it's, I gotta worry about the documentation, I gotta keep track of this, it could be too much. It also means that people who have medically transitioned and people that are stealth could be under harm and face a little bit of additional scrutiny, right? The genital checks, the paperwork, etc. But there's also a flip side, because what this is going to do is there's a lot of very masculine women and women who have health issues that may cause them to have facial hair or some other masculizing conditions, and they may not be trans at all. They may not be any of this. Intersex individuals, right? They may be at greater scrutiny by this law, because now you're going to have people who are incentivized to find these individuals and call them out, because now it's a felony. People are going to be incentivized to say, well, I don't like trans people, I want to throw them all in jail, and so they're going to go hunting for this. This is already...
Wait, you can't vote if you have a felony. Is that true? That's crazy.
Happening in a couple other states where you see people are targeting actual biological women thinking that they are trans when they're going into the bathroom under some of these restrictive bathroom bills. It's pushing trans people back, not just back to where it was when I started, but way back before when I came out. This is pushing transsexual rights in Texas well past where we are.
Yeah, I think Skye has been trans longer than me. I think it's been like well over a decade. I could be wrong. I can't remember.
Where Trump and most of the Republicans are, they're basically saying, like, we're going back to, a early 2000s definition. And it's like, okay, a lot of the trans classic folks are like, okay, we don't like that, but we can deal with that because we understand, and we can...
Not all for sure, but most of them are. Do you tend to meet trans people more on the internet or in real life? Maybe that matters, I don't know. I say that, but like, fucking hell, like one of the things that piqued me was like, I know about 2 trans people locally that aren't basically ideologues, that aren't basically in a thought cult, that aren't all polyamorous and anarcho-communist and like all this other shit, and like push all this like crazy like rights kind of stuff. Oh, 22 years, wow. But yeah, like it's not necessarily a healthy thing. I think it does kind of promote some kind of individualism and stuff like that. A tendency for like narcissism and stuff. It can certainly encourage those kind of tendencies in people.
We've lived through that. We've seen what that's like. We know we can survive. It's not going to be easy, but we know we can. We just need, these organizations that are supposed to support us to understand our needs. And that's not helping either, because these organizations are the ones that pushed for the policies and the efforts that led to this in the first place. So it's also creating kind of a legal idea that being trans is deceptive, which is something that trans activism fought against for a very long time. The old stereotypes was, well, trans people just want to trick you into having sex with them. They're all liars and they're con men. And that was the old trope, as that, well, they all just want to trick you. And, you got to be careful. You got to check for the Adam's apple before you go home, because you might end up bringing home a man, not think of it. That was the old joke. And this takes us back to like that reality, to like 1980s, 1990s trans panic. And that is...
Talking about a fraction of females. How many will be mistaken for men? That is true. It's not a very big amount of people that would be affected by this, but it's a potential negative effect. You gotta consider as much as possible. You know what I mean? You gotta be thorough when you're thinking about this kind of stuff. You gotta consider like the cons and pros.
Disturbing for us people who have seen and lived through that. So I don't like the direction this bill is going. It's a step too far. There's no exceptions. It's a dangerous precedent. It is extremely...
Yeah, I agree with this. To be clear. I'm not actually down with this shit.
Restrictive. It is unfair to a lot of people by making this a felony.
The only caveat I would make is that I kind of understand where some of this is coming from, just because of all the excesses of like trans activism and the kind of things we now expect from society and how entitled it feels like some of us have become. So I understand the backlash. That doesn't mean I agree with the backlash. I just understand why it's kind of going this way. And that's not a fucking genocide.
I think that this is not a very good bill. It's very short. But we do have to remember that a lot of bills like this, when they are introduced, they don't get passed. Extreme bills and wild legislative proposals, they get introduced all the time.
Yeah, this is what I mean. Like, we talk about all these like huge amounts of like anti-LGBTQ plus bills and stuff, but it kind of seems like stuff like this is 10 a penny. Like, how many insane like proposals come from like random fucking senators and stuff like that every single day? Probably a lot. It makes me honestly think that the scaremonger of how many like supposed anti-trans bills, it's just kind of, it's like a drop in the ocean. It's like, yeah, this is kind of every fucking day. The backlash from one extreme to the other. Yeah, to be clear, this would be going too far in the opposite direction. This is like overcorrecting, if anything. I don't agree with this bill.
I mean, there was the heartbeat bill in Mississippi, and that was a big one. There were abortion bills galore in Alabama and Georgia and Mississippi and Louisiana in the late 2000s, early 2010s. They didn't pass, but they were so extreme that they didn't pass. Texas itself has introduced several extreme bills. The most recent one I can think of is their independence referendum. That was a big one. But it never got serious traction, but everyone was talking about it. But it's going to blow up the union. It was big news for...
Yeah, I'm sure I've heard of some of these like abortion bills. Like, again, taking things to the other extreme. But how often do they pass?
Several weeks, but they never went anywhere. And Democrats have this too, because, you know, they do things that a lot of people don't agree with. Like New York City, they pushed the no cash bail law. They went ahead with that, and then they were like, oh, this is not very good, and they reversed course. They realized instantly that was bad, and they backpedaled that. California, I believe it was, and I may get this wrong, so please let me know in the comments, because there's a couple different ones, and I want to say it was California SB 145, which was the sex crimes bill, where they wanted to change the penalties for some of the sex crimes, not weaken them, but changing them in the way that you register on the sex offender registry. That one didn't go anywhere. There was another bill that was introduced in California that would have reduced the penalties for possession and distribution of CSAM material. That didn't go anywhere. There was another bill in California that would have reduced the age of consent to 12. That didn't go anywhere. So just because a bill is
reduce the age of consent to 12. Oh my god. Yeah, I kind of wish. Like, imagine some of these like LGBT activists started broadening their horizons and looking at some of the other crazy shit that comes out all the time by the sound of it. Like, fuck me. Like, 12?
introduced does not mean it will pass, and it does not mean it will become law. But it does show that this is where the political winds are leaning. So we want to be very careful there. Now, let us talk about genocide. Under the definitions of genocide, this is not genocide. Most of what people claim is the trans genocide is not genocide. They use that for hyperbole. They use that for shock value. There is no genocide of trans people. That is purely a rhetorical event.
Yeah, the problem is you get dishonest fucks like Suris here that they're not just doing it for shock value. They're actually, well, they're certainly pretending if they don't think this. They're actually trying to make an actual case for this kind of shit. 12 is crazy. Yeah, I agree. Fucking hell. Who's fucking a 12-year-old? Like, go to jail. Jesus Christ.
This is a backlash to transgender activism and transgender ideology. It looks like...
Then they also want to decriminate knowingly spread AIDS. Maybe, I don't know. I need to know what bill or what specifically.
Like transgender activists overplayed their hands by pressing into these areas that the general public and the majority of voters did not want, and that a lot of transsexual people, myself included, did not want and spoke out against. And as what happens when people get frustrated, there comes a backlash, a follow-up response to that overreaction, and there's an overcorrection. We're in the middle of...
Literally what I said, Jesus Christ. Because this person is smart. And the problem is you overcorrect. The more you overcorrect on one side, the more you do it on the other side. This kind of dynamic is not good. And it's not really what you should be wanting to see from like your Republican representatives, you know what I mean? Like trying to start some kind of escalation with like freako-trans activists. For what?
Of an overcorrection right now to the overreaction. So the wind took us too far one way, this is going to take us too far the other, and then we'll finally should end up somewhere in the middle when this is all said and done. But that does not mean that right now it's not a challenge, and we have to stay vigilant. We just have to remember, if activists...
Yeah, I think for this kind of... we need as many people as possible, really, that are kind of shooting for middle ground and encouraging more people to think of it that way, because it's the only thing that will work. Constant escalation from both sides is not sustainable. It's not going to work. Like, what are you going to do? Have a fucking civil war over it? I don't see that happening. So, like, yeah, it's a bit ridiculous.
Had fought for reasonable protections and focused on long-term what's best for trans people instead of pushing and focusing on gender ideology, we wouldn't be seeing the reactionary fallout in the laws we are now. Transsexuals are getting caught in this fallout where this ideology that most of us on this channel who are transsexual do not agree with are seeing a lot of the things that we fought for, believe in, have been like, this is what we asked for, needed for our survival, are getting caught up, and we're part of the fallout. So this is where I feel this bill is lying. It is an overreaction, but it is just an extreme introduction. It's just a gauge of where the winds are right now. I will continue to keep following it to see if it continues to progress through the Texas House, considering the number of bills that are introduced. And again, there are a wide number of bills that have been introduced, because when you go to it's gonna. Oh. Here we go. Sorry. So you can see that there are 6,349 bills.
Yeah, how many anti-trans bills right now? What's the... Trans Legislation Tracker 2025. 745 bills. 25 have passed. How much of this is about things like trans kids, transports, things that, or like trans in the military, things that plenty of us are against anyway, or at least some of us are against, more of us should be. 745 bills. And just in Texas right now, there's like 6,349 for consideration. It's one of the biggest states, I guess. It's one of the more populated states. So it's probably running high. But at the same time, you imagine the actual number of bills and how many other crazy things get like suggested every single day. It kind of puts all of this into perspective somewhat. And this fucking idiot is going to use this one, I think. You see this? And then if you can see in the viewfinder, it's the same one. Holy shit. Does he never like look at like overall numbers of bills? Why would he? That's evidence against him. You can't be an ideologue hack fuck and look at evidence to the contrary. You got to ignore all that shit and pretend it doesn't exist.
In the current legislature for Texas. And they usually only get to go through less than 300. So the odds are not in the favor of this one. The odds are not in the favor of any particular bill. So we will see what happens. But I will continue watching this. I have it bookmarked and penned, but there's a lot of misinformation, a lot of fear-mongering and rhetoric around this one. But it is scary.
Probably a nothing burger. Yeah, I mean, it shows, like Skye's saying, it shows where their heads are at, and it's not good. I don't like this idea of, like, escalating because of some of the excesses and some of the problems with, like, trans activism. Like, it's not a good dynamic. But, like, at the same time, it feels like these kind of bills are, like, 10 a penny at the moment. And it's not just trans people that are, like, the kinds of people that will possibly getting affected by some of these crazy bills, but then most of them aren't going to pass potentially anyway.
It is definitely an overreach that I don't agree with, that takes where the political winds were and then rolls back protections way farther than they should by saying, hey, transsexuals who went through a medical process and all this stuff, we're going to criminalize you now. I don't think that's right. I don't think that that's what the majority of people want, because the majority of people still believe that transsexuals, people with a mental health condition, people like me, deserve respect, they deserve support, and they deserve protection under the law. So I don't think this bill is going to go anywhere. But that's what I think. That's what I think looking at this. And this is all the information. As always, I will put all of the links to everything in the description, but please let me know what you think down in the comments below. Do you think this bill has a chance of getting passed, or do you think this is just activist overreach and fear-mongering on both sides with tweets like what Becca put out? Let me know, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!
I recommend subscribing to Skye Vitiritti's channel. It's very good. Yeah, by itself, it's not anything to do with genocide, really. It's another crazy bill coming out. It's not good. But, like, stuff like this does not help. I mean, what if it just doesn't pass? What's your thing going to be next? This is a very, a very risky strategy to go after bills that haven't even passed yet. Because they might just all not pass. And then you're going to have to find something else to use as evidence for your genocide thing. You know what I mean?
See what the end effect is supposed to be. A bill to be entitled, an act relating to the creating of the criminal offense of gender identity fraud, be it enacted by the legislature.
That is also very true. You should like the stream. Make sure you check the links in my description. You can super chat via Streamlabs. You can... God, it really does not help. I can't see the stream information because OBS is a mess. You can buy my music. You can stream my music. You can subscribe on Twitch. I'm monetized there, but not on YouTube. Skye, you will probably be monetized on YouTube before me, just saying. Yeah, you can join my Discord. Anyway.
Legislature of the state of Texas, Section 1, Subchapter D, Chapter 32, Penal Code, is amended by adding Section 3.515 to read as follows. Gender identity fraud. A person commits an offense if the person knowingly makes a false or misleading verbal or written statement to a governmental entity or the person.
Yeah, so knowingly, is there wiggle room there straight away?
Person's employer by identifying the person's biological.
Are there ways around this, such as just going with biological reality in certain settings? Like, I don't know, man. I don't like this, but it's not genocidal.
Biological sex as the opposite of the biological sex of the person at birth. Now, bear in mind that the Trump administration has argued that biological sex and gender are to mean the same thing, and anything that refers to one should refer to the other, before you go typing away in the comment sections there. Part B of this says, an offense under this section is a state jail felony, and the act takes effect September 1st, 2025.
Well, if it passes, which it might not.
A state jail felony for being trans. We're not going to talk about...
Not for being trans. It's not a state jail felony for being trans. It's for making a false or misleading verbal or written statement about your gender. That's not being trans. You're essentializing. You're lying already. Like, 7 minutes in, there's a pretty massive lie. If you can't represent this kind of stuff properly, don't talk about it. You're not even trans yourself. You only have a horse in this race because you're a gamp. I'm sorry.
Neopronouns or people who are gender fluid or any of the other complicated...
Neopronouns has nothing to do with this. You can still just say that you're a male or a female. Yeah, the word trans isn't... Jesus. This is what I mean. This isn't even good, but I'm having to defend it from fucks like this, who are just completely full of shit. And are doing this to get clicks, to get views. Because to say there's a genocide in the US, it's shocking. It's going to get people looking at your video. So you're using trans people for your own fucking ends, quite frankly. And talking utter bollocks. Your pronouns have nothing to do with this. You could very easily just defer to biological reality when talking to certain people. And then it's not going to affect you anyway, presumably. Oh, it's painful. It's painful. It's painful. If you can't sum this up, don't talk about it. Cut this part out.
Esoteric bits that we could possibly talk about here. We're just talking about a trans person. A person who has...
No, we're not. We're talking about certain statements someone might make.
At some point in their life, decided that the thing the doctor said they were is not the thing that they are.
The thing the doctor said they were is not what they... That isn't even what trans means. Being trans means, like, wanting to live in as much as you can as the other sex. But nowadays, it just means calling yourself a thing. Got nothing to do. What did he say again?
Bits that we could possibly talk about here. We're just talking about a trans person. A person who has, at some point in their life, decided that the thing the doctor said they were is not the thing that they are.
This person, his definition of trans is delusional. You're describing delusion here. I don't actually think I'm a fucking woman. I've transitioned. I've changed myself in a bunch of ways. I guess I used to identify as a woman, but I didn't actually think I was one. I didn't actually think I'm not actually a male, I'm actually a female. Because that's not possible. And I knew that wasn't possible. That's not what being trans means.
They have made that decision.
Maybe your partner or whatever is delusional. That doesn't mean every trans person is.
As an adult. Or they made that decision as a minor and did not act upon that decision until being an adult. Or
at least he's saying made a decision. I'll give him that. That part is correct.
Any number of ways that you can argue this. Most of the trans people I know began their therapies and everything well into adulthood. So we are talking about adults. Anybody who tries to argue that this is about children is wrong, because there is no part...
Yeah, it doesn't mention trans... It doesn't mention children any more times than it mentions trans. Why is he, like, heading off things that are, like, Who's gonna say this is about like what are you talking about? Oh my god, now I know what you're thinking. This isn't about children. No one's thinking that because it doesn't say children anyway, you retard.
Part about this bill that cares about children.
Yep, this is the bloke that has the cat girl little lolly avatar. Hi out sanity, hope you're good. I hate this video so much.
To argue that this is not stage 1, at the very least, a classification, and us versus them. A way to force people to choose a category, and choosing the wrong category.
Force people, like, you just... Oh my god. I actually... I don't know why anyone would listen to this and take it seriously. It's got like 5.6k likes. Why? What is this shit?
Category causes them to get sent to a jail cell. You would be blatantly...
I agree, this is cooked as fuck. But he's not even summarizing it correctly. Like, making it illegal to be trans, that's not what it's saying at all.
Incorrect. I would also like to argue that there is a trend with Georgia, Alabama, Florida, Texas, and Tennessee, and Virginia, that when one of these laws successfully passes in the House or Senate of any of those states, copycat laws are enacted in each of our states directly afterwards. So any argument that this is only happening in Texas, I don't want to hear.
Well, it's not happening in Texas. It might, but it's not happening. Oh my god. Is he going to say a single honest sentence the entire video? I get that it's a shitty trans genocide video. I get that by design, you are making a video lying to people to stir up fear and also to get people to click on your videos and like subscribe to you because you're sticking up for trans people, I guess. I didn't ask you to and I don't want you to and I'm trans myself, but go off, I guess. Keep on using my fucking community to get clicks and views with this clickbait bullshit. You're just lying though.
Hear it. Because history shows...
I don't typically watch TRA videos, so it's stunning seeing the difference in styles. Yeah, I know, right? Jesus Christ. Like, I just didn't watch any of this shit for a long time. I didn't realize how bad it was. And like, when you start seeing and like listening to what these people are saying, it's like shocking. Like, these people are allowed. This person, you can join his fucking YouTube. You can... He's like monetized and shit. To lie like this. To scaremonger. It's shocking.
That doesn't fucking matter. Now, the next stage is symbolization. This is a visual manifestation of hatred. Jews in Nazi-occupied Europe were forced to wear the Yellow Star of David. In Cambodia, the Khmer Rouge were forced from the Eastern Zone to wear blue scarves. From 1992 in Northwest Bosnia, all non-Serbian citizens were forced to wear armbands. Now, let me make this argument very clear. The transgender flag's existence is not an act of authoritarian symbolization.
Again, who's saying it is? What I said earlier is that we do this kind of shit ourselves. Like, where was it? Symbolization. Yeah, but what is the government putting on trans people like this? The only symbols we have are our own. Classification. We're the ones classifying ourselves. That's the whole point of fucking trans ideology. That's the whole point of like queer shit. Is to classify yourself, to call yourself a thing and you are thus that thing. Oh man.
It's not. But the fact that it exists means it can be used that way.
That is retarded. That is literally retarded.
While we have not had forced...
People already cover themselves in like these kind of things. People already cover themselves in like pins and badges with these kind of flags on them. They're already doing it to themselves. What the fuck is the government going to do? Give you stuff you're already wearing? This is crazy. What is he talking about?
Symbolization in a way that I fully can articulate right now. We do 100% have a symbol that can be used very quickly, and it's ready right there. And there are plenty of trans people who will wear this with pride, much like there are plenty of Jewish people who already would be perfectly fine wearing a Star of David. And then the minute that...
Yeah, how many Jews went around with that, like, specific Star of David thing? I don't know, man. But this is retarded. Like, yeah, you might... How's America gonna start forcing trans people to wear stuff with this on it? It doesn't make any sense.
That this gets used against them as we go further down the stages of genocide is where things get...
Yeah, battle jackets. I think it was some fucking Facebook group or something. I kept getting, like, suspended. Like, you see these, like, battle jackets, with these stupid fucking pins with, like, respect my existence or expect my resistance, or, like, this flag. And other shit like that on it. Shit your camera's phones is apparently the first self-selected genocide in history. Yeah, true.
Get a lot more icky. Your third stage is...
Using icky in a video about genocide, by the way. Okay, so completely terrible. The first two have not been shown whatsoever. I'm not counting anything he has said on these first two. We classify ourselves. That's the whole cornerstone of queerness. Self-ID. We make our own symbols. What's next? Discrimination, you're going to have more of a case against, I guess, but I don't know, man.
Discrimination. This is where a dominant group denies civil rights, or even
Cray cray. I fully agree. Hi, Auriga. I hope you're good.
citizenship to identified groups. The 1935 Nuremberg laws stripped Jews of their German citizenship and made it illegal for them to do many jobs or to marry German non-Jews. Now, all that is required here is for civil rights to be denied for a minority group. There are...
How do you deny rights to a group that can't even really be defined properly? Oh, and he's going to use this shit. Okay, bro. Okay.
2025, 687 anti-trans bills active in every single state, 17 of which in this year alone have passed.
Yeah, and what are those?
Any argument that we are not...
He's not going to... Is he going to show any of them? I guess this is up for a decent while. Is he going to show a single one of these shitty bills? If he doesn't show any of them, then that is, like, fucking shameful. These 17 bills. What are they actually about? Like, I don't know, man. Oh, it's saying 25 have passed so far. Well, I guess he made it. 25 passed bills. Sex-based terms. Report sex as male or female at birth. Legislative policy requiring... Is this an anti-trans bill? Like, we're trying to redefine... We're trying to reaffirm sex. But plenty of trans people accept sex anyway. I have a battle jacket. It's got music patches and a back patch for a raccoon saying I love dumpster fires. There's nothing about my identity on it. Fair enough. Listen, I thought that's what battle jackets were for. It was like your music taste and like shit like that. Bill for an act relating to sex and gender, including those blah 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 blah. This is about like reaffirming sex. Sports do not care about. Trans people should not be in sports. Trans women hurt women in women's sports. Like women's volleyball team for Boise State University. There might not even be any fucking trans people trying to get on that team in the first place. I don't know. This is an anti-trans bill? This is what I mean. We're using this as a big number. Oh no, there's this many bills being passed about anti-trans. When you look at them, we're talking about sports. We're talking about reaffirming the definition of sex, which some trans people would even agree is probably a good thing. I think it probably is. Healthcare, Help Not Harm Act, restricting use of state funds to promote gender transition to children. Again, I'm for this. I don't think we should be transitioning children. The house is anti-trans. I'm literally a trans person that fucking disagrees. That disagrees that this is bad. Education. And the other thing is, like, it should be pretty fucking obvious why they might pass bills against something like trans people in sports or healthcare for children. They've got nothing to do with genocide. They've got nothing to do with trying to make a hostile environment for trans people. There's certain things that people have a problem with. This fucking idiot has not been listening, I guess, to what people have been saying. No, battle jackets are those like vests you wear, like denim vests that you put all like pins and stuff on. Usually put like your favorite like bands and stuff on that. Hang on. I'll show you what I mean. This kind of thing. Hang on. Yeah, this kind of thing. I don't know why you'd sell one on eBay, but someone is, I guess. Stuff like this. You've probably seen someone going around in one of these before. That kind of thing. That's a battle jacket. Anyway, yeah. You can see why these might be needed. Is this genocide, or is this like asserting certain boundaries? Because certain things mixing trans with is not a good thing, like children or women's sports. Education. Prohibit a public post-secondary education institution providing differential treatment or benefits. Is this even anti-trans? Oh, it's because it's about potentially separating people by sex if somewhere is like doing that. This is pathetic. This is very, very weak evidence when you actually look at it. And I'd be amazed if this suris guy is going to actually dig down into these and explain why these kind of things mean there's a genocide. Incarceration. Not many people, I think, are actually pro putting trans women in female prisons. Bathrooms, blah, blah, blah. Bathroom. Much genocide, very wow. Child abuse. Listen, I don't like the idea of like calling a parent a child abuser because they have listened to their child on the trans thing and are transitioning their child. But you definitely get some people that their interest in their child's transition seems to eclipse the child's interest. And that, I think, is bad. Obviously, it's not easy to know which ones are which. But then some of these trans kid parents are not getting up on stage to bloviate about it, I guess. Maybe that's the difference. Who knows? He won't. He'll pull up Trump's exos that we already looked at and say that's his big proof. Yeah, probably. That this person has so many subs and views is sickening. Yes, very much so. But if you're a ideologue, that's what happens. This is what appeals to plenty of trans people, unfortunately.
But in stage 3 is 100% incorrect, evidenced entirely by the fact that we have already been doing this. We have already been trying to remove civil rights from trans.
Removing civil rights, such as not allowing them on Boise State women's volleyball team. Come off it, bro. Come off it.
People. The ability to gain your passports with your chosen name, your chosen gender, has been revoked from trans people. The ability to vote.
Yeah, but you can still use a passport with the other marker on it. Is that the end of the world?
Has been argued to be revoked from anybody who's...
The ability to vote has been argued to be revoked.
Gender has been revoked from trans people. The ability to vote has been argued to be revoked from anybody whose name does not coincide with the name on their birth certificate, which...
From who?
Just so happens to be something that a lot of trans people fall into the category of.
Like, is this actually a thing that might happen? Or is it another, like, nutty bill like the Texas thing we were looking at?
And of course, telling a trans person that they are not allowed to say what their gender is 110% an anti-trans law. It is discrimination in every way, shape, and form.
Yeah, you're just labeling things. Oh, it's an anti-trans law, so it's discriminate. Like, you actually look at these, there's little here. There's little here. The state in its political vision shall not compel or require an employee to refer to another. I don't want compelled speech either, so how is this anti-trans? Plenty of trans people don't agree with this kind of shit. But this isn't anti-trans bills, it's anti-trans thought cult bills, it feels like.
The next stage is dehumanization. Those who are perceived as different are treated...
Plenty of us do this themselves. See anyone that calls himself it-its, etc.
...with no form of human rights or personal dignity. It specifies that during the genocide in Rwanda, Tutsis were referred to as cockroaches, and the Nazis referred to Jews as vermin. So, how do you get dehumanization of trans people in the United States? Well, we can define dehumanization as the process of depriving a person or a group of their positive human qualities. So what would be more dehumanizing?
You're not serious. You're not actually fucking serious.
Than being told that one of the most basic things you would like to participate in, a sport, needs to be revoked from you because you are less than.
That's not fucking dehumanization. There's a very obvious reason. It's not that you're less than, it's that you're more than. Why are you talking about this? Why are you talking about trans sports? I've seen what you look like in real life. Clearly you have no interest in actual sports. I actually want to die.
The cis girls in those sports. California schools and families hurt by transgender athlete controversy denounce Newsom for enabling this crisis in the first place.
The Gavin Newsom thing? Like, really, bro? Have you not listened to a single argument? about why males probably shouldn't compete with females? Not one?
Carlson, saying that transgenderism is the most dangerous extremist movement
Yeah, movement. That's not dehumanizing. That's talking about a movement.
the United States. CPAC speaker calling for the eradication.
That's not transgenderism, not transgender people. And like, just because whoever wrote this article is a fucking retard, somehow claims he's not calling the elimination of transgender people. Well, at least is he not? He's not. Oh, and look at this. There is no separating a ban on transgenderism from an attack on transgender people, says activist Erin Reed. Okay, well, I've never been able to more quickly just write something off than seeing Erin Reed being quoted right under the headline, which is already ridiculous. They're one and the same. There's no separation. There is. I don't subscribe to the fucking gender ideology. I don't subscribe to transgenderism. I'm just trans. I am separate from it. And if you tell me I can't be, then fuck you. You don't get to choose that for me. Fuck you. Fuck you, Erin Reed. There you go. Piece of shit.
Of transgenderism. This, of course, was Michael Knowles, calling for the elimination of transgenderism.
Yeah, what the fuck is Michael Knowles gonna do? Anyway.
Any argument whatsoever, that none of this points to an attempt at dehumanizing trans people?
Yeah, no, you're just wrong on every count. I'm sorry. You haven't shown this at all. You haven't demonstrated. There you go.
Would in the same breath never want any of this to happen to their child. It would be considered dehumanizing of Christians to say that we need to eliminate all Christians from the United States. They would.
But they're not saying Christians, because they're not saying trans people. You mean eliminate Christianity from the US. That's what would be similar.
Be seen as vermin. They would be seen as lambs to a slaughter. It's in fact part of the language that Christians have used for years to describe themselves in the first place. So why, when the shoe is on a different foot, does it feel like it fits any different? It shouldn't. And that leaves us to stage 5, organization.
Okay, that's yet another one he has not shown whatsoever. This is terrible. This is the worst video I've seen in time. I always say that basically every fucking day. This is like on another level. I wish I could dislike this 100 fucking times.
Now, it says here genocides are always planned. Regimes of hatred often train those who go to carry out the destruction of a people. Now, there are a couple things that I want to bring up here. The first one is how often drag shows, trans people...
In public life. Oh, is that what Michael Knowles said? So he said, eradicate transgenderism in public life. Fair enough. I mean, I can see, like, maybe he should be more careful with his words, because I can see why the link is being made, but it's not an honest link that's being made. Like, some fucking retard like Erin Reed says that transgenderism and trans people are the same thing, which that's insulting to people like me that don't follow. That's erasing people like me, in fact, that don't follow fucking transgenderism. I'm just a trans person. Like, I'll tell you something. I just thought trans was like a personal thing that you do because you feel a certain way, like, and you can't get away from it. But the thing is, it feels like it comes with all this other stuff that seems to have nothing to do with just feeling gender dysphoria, wanting to change parts of yourself, not being happy in who you are. All of this transgender, like, this has got nothing to do with me. This has got nothing to do with why anyone transitions. I mean, I guess some people do transition for the community, like because they're already around other trans people and they'll be treated better, they'll be included more if they do. Or because they've never managed to fucking make it anywhere else, which arguably is fucking part of my story as well. But this is actually quite a disgusting thing to say. That transgender people are the ideal. No, fuck no. You're erasing people that don't think the same way as you.
etc., are labeled as pedophiles in the media, while at the same time, groups labeling them as pedophiles sell merchandise.
Yeah, how often do people like you label Christians as pedophiles? You do the same shit. Like, hang on. I bet he has. I'm kind of pulling that out of my ass otherwise, but like... Oh, he probably doesn't use the A because he's American. There aren't great matches. I'm sure he has like Twitter or something. I'm not going to be able to like do this. Listen. If he hasn't ever made the connection between Christianity and pedophilia, then plenty of other people, probably friends of his, have done so. Like, you can find it anywhere if you look hard enough. People do that to, like, Muslims. People do that to all kinds of groups of people. Not just trans people.
And I saying kill your local pedo.
And he's a fucking hypocrite if he's ever called someone else a pedophile because of, like, their faith or something like that. Which people do. People like to highlight other groups who apparently are also doing pedophilia. Like, yeah, it's the thing that lots of different kinds of people do.
Now, while we don't have any link to being transgender and being a pedophile in any scientific data whatsoever, that never matters. It never matters. Not ever once. That was the argument that I used when I made my original video on this.
Yeah, it's a terrible argument, and your original video is probably dog shit.
And I still want to stick by that argument. But I think I have one other argument for the Organization Against Trans People. Once again, you do not enact 687...
He just uses the name, the number. This is a tenth of... Is it roughly a tenth of the amount of bills that we saw on Skye's video in Texas, just in general? So it makes it sound a lot smaller than it actually is. It makes it sound like it's a lot smaller than it's being presented, is what I mean by that. And when you look at the bills, most of them are like bullshit anyway.
7 bills in 49 states, unless there is a well-organized and concerted effort against a group of people.
I think this is stupid. I don't think he understands anything. I don't think he understands how many bills in general happen. I don't think he understands why certain bills like these might actually be necessary, might actually be a good thing to anyone with half a brain. There's a terrible argument. Like, you just listen to a bunch of other TRAs use this kind of bullshit, because I've been seeing this around. It used to be 2024 anti-trans bills, now it's 2025. Ooh. We're never gonna, like, stop on this point.
There is no such thing as an unorganized movement that has proposed this much legislation. And any argument to the contrary is in full denial of reality, because I can show you the reality source directly in front of you. Now, stage 6 is polarization.
But you won't. Great, amazing. Another dipshit argument.
This is where groups begin making propaganda. The propaganda can come in a variety of forms. It can be even have a ton of levity. Hell, look at a lot of anti-Jewish propaganda in early Germany during the Weimar Republic. A lot of the anti-Jewish propaganda from then doesn't look like it's calling for genocide. It just has to exist. It just has to exist. So I wonder if we can find any major funded groups from the United States that have been creating anti-trans
Let me guess. Heritage Foundation, Republican Party, something like that.
propaganda. Well, I don't know what else you would consider the What is a Woman movie from Matt Walsh.
What? What do I even say to this? What do I even say? What is a woman is a propaganda for... He's trying to make a point that he made very successfully. And then no one seemed to be able to, like, debunk him on this shit. So it became massive. Matt Walsh became huge.
I don't know what else you would consider Lady Ballers from the Daily Wire.
Oh, a shitty film. Like, if this is true, then what is that thing we were looking at? Was it Manhunt? Then what are you going to call that then? Then what's this? We looked at it earlier in the other segment. Where they're fighting against, like, evil TERFs. And, like, testosterone is, like, kryptonite. So what's that then? This is desperate. Yes, very, very pathetic.
And in fact, I think you'll find that I'm not the only one calling these films propaganda, and anti-trans propaganda at that.
Oh, so because MSNBC calls it propaganda in some shitty opinion piece. I despair. I despair. You enjoyed What is a Woman? Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched much of it. I am 99% sure that trans activists bolted the fuck out of Matt Walsh by having no good arguments against him. Sorry, just give me a sec. Just give me a sec. Hey, Excuse me. All right, I need to try and get through this. This is gonna... We're not even 20 minutes in. I have it on 2x speed. We'll see what we can do. Maybe I need to interrupt less. But let's see.
All that is needed for my argument to hold water, the only thing that is needed, is for it to exist. And if I can point to existing...
Nah, this is retarded. You haven't pointed to it existing. MSNBC calling something a propaganda film doesn't mean that it's a propaganda film. And propaganda exists. But like everything. The 1980s Mindhunter prequel to Silence of the Lambs, or the Wachowski translop about trans women. Jesus Christ. This is a great argument for the resources like this. Where is it? Resources like this. You want to say that these come from experts, and that's why they have merit, why they hold weight, should be used by experts, and not random dipshits who pretend to be lollygirls on the internet.
It is 100% there. And there it is. And these are not small independent creators. These are multimillionaires who are in the exact same groups as everybody else in the Trump administration right now. The propaganda is being created. And the propaganda doesn't have to be made by the state to serve its purpose. Disney made World War II propaganda. It simply needs to exist. Then we get to stage 7.
Okay, that was utterly retarded. Like, has he made any good... Excuse me. Has he made any good points yet? Even when he was talking about that Texas bill, which we'd probably agree more than we disagree, he still completely butchers it. Can't, like, read, like, the whole thing without lying about it. That it's about criminalizing being trans. That's not what it is. I had the same shit from, like, Olivia sending me dumb fucking messages about how they're trying to legislate trans people out of existence. And then you look at it and it's like, this is nothing of the sort.
This is your preparation. Perpetrators plan the genocide. They often use euphemisms, such as the Nazi phrase, the final solution, to cloak their intentions. Acts of genocide are disguised as self-defense, as if there is an ongoing armed conflict.
Self-defense? Like, what is he talking about? Like, people that murder, like, trans sex workers because they have penises? Shouldn't do that, obviously. That's not good. But at the same time, maybe just don't lie about what's between your pants.
From the White House itself, defending women from gender ideology, restoring the biological truth to our government and executive order.
Wait, sorry, what point was this on again? This preparation? Executive order, wow. Wow. There could be no other reason as to why this exists. There could be no other reason why Donald Trump is going after some of this stuff.
Women from gender ideology, restoring the biological truth to our government and executive order. It's always framed as self-defense. It's always framed with a euphemism. We're just...
Yeah, the problem with the self-defense stuff is that kind of makes sense because there are ways in which gender ideology extremism has gone too far. Hence why it's being called extremism.
Defending women. And we're not trying to eliminate trans people. We're defending them.
Yeah, this video we're watching here is propaganda. Whenever these people talk about propaganda, they are... Well, there is a 99% chance that this person is projecting hard because he wants to make propaganda in the other direction. And why is it good one way but not the other? Isn't it kind of bad in general? Shouldn't you just tell the truth? But the problem is this person is actually convinced of his bullshit, or he's just grifting. There's two options. Both are bad. Are we delusional or are we a grifter? You've got two options.
From gender ideology. And if we're going to go ahead and bring up the grandpappy of most genocidal arguments, I can do that too. We're not against Jews. We're against national Jewry. Anybody who's done even a small bit of studying of Hitler's regime should have had a red flag pop up in their brain the minute I said those words.
Except you're not living in Nazi Germany. You weren't even alive in the 40s.
Because they remembered those words being used when they were studying the genocide that happened in Germany. Now, your next stage is persecution. Victims being identified by their ethnicity or religion, death lists are drawn up, people are sometimes segregated into ghettos, deported or starved, and property is often expropriated. Now, this one, you may think we're not at. However, as of right now, when people try to get their names changed for passports, their names get put on lists, as of right now.
How many lists are any of your names on at any given time in the US? It's a bit like, I think the UK is like one of the most surveilled countries in the world. Like walking down the street, you might be being looked at by a lot more people than you think you are. How many lists is your name on? Who fucking knows?
Lists of trans people are, in fact, being drawn up. And again, I'm going to use this
Source, please.
argument once more.
No. Give a source. Oh, fuck's sake, man. Give a source. Like,
There is no word for 687 bills being proposed against you as an individual, other than...
but they're not against an individual. How many people? One of them was saying about not allowing males into the Boise University's volleyball team for women. How many people are personally being affected by that particular bill? So how are you going to put it out that these bills are targeted at trans people themselves? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Once more, there is no word for 687 bills being proposed against you as an individual, other than persecution.
You as an individual. What's the word? We're encouraging this toxic mentality where we apply this kind of shit to ourselves.
Mary.
Like the stream.
Oh, thank you so much, Skye. You are very correct. Thank you for the $100. Oh my god. Make sure you like the stream. Listen, Skye is correct. You must like the stream. Anyway.
There is no word to describe this other than that. An attempt to identify these would-be victims. And while the definitions of genocide try to argue that this is only
He hasn't shown anything he's saying here.
for ethnicity or religion, I would argue that as long as you have a targeted group and there is an attempt, it is 100% that. So,
What? Because there's a lot of bills, but we never look at what the actual bills are. Look at any of them. I'm fucking dying here. Like, this is how easy it is. You see this? Hang on. You see this? This is how easy it is. Yeah. No, it's not quite that easy, unfortunately. Scroll down. Click on this. Look at the actual bills. Not hard at all.
where does that leave us?
Thank you so much, Skye. Thank you.
Because the scary part is me getting a BattleNet notification for some reason, of all things. The scary part is supposed to be extermination. This is the part I argued we weren't at the last time.
Okay, so we haven't really shown that we're at any of these states. And the amount to which we might be, you could say about a lot of different groups that are also not being genocided. And we've already kind of uncovered a lot of hypocrisy on this guy's side. But now we're at extermination, and we're going to pretend that we're at exterminate. Why? Because they've revoked access to healthcare for like some children. And now a small sliver, tiny percentage of them might kill themselves. When we're constantly talking about trans children and suicide in the same breath. Wonder if that has an effect. When doctors are constantly telling parents that their kid will kill themselves if they don't transition. Even though they probably won't.
And that I did this video. Stage 9 is extermination. The hate group murders their identified victims in a deliberate and systematic campaign of violence. Now, what did I say when I began this video?
How do you exterminate a group that isn't coherently defined? That is a very good question, and one that you will certainly not hear an answer from this person.
What did I argue at the beginning of this video? If you wanted to enact a genocide in the modern day with all of the surveillance we have, all of the documentation, all the news organizations, all of the independent media, everything, how would you do that? Very simple. You would make it invisible.
And we're going back to this. One weird fucking bill in one state that might well not pass and is like a backlash to perceived like overreach. But he's got nothing to say about trans overreach because he agrees with all of it. He thinks that kids should transition. He thinks that males should infest women's sports.
We go back to the Texas bill once more. If we make it a jailable offense to simply be yourself, what's the quietest way you can kill someone?
That's not what it is. It's about making specific statements, which you could just avoid making. I'm like speechless. I'm shocked.
Very simply. No, not even the death penalty.
What? Study shows. I mean, I'm going to guess this is based on testimony. How true are any of these people saying? And the other thing is, people like this that scaremonger over these laws, I think these people are as responsible as anyone else. What we've got is a load of supposed allies and other trans people who are like extremists, let's be honest. all gassing each other up. All these laws are passing. It's terrible. Life's going to really suck for us. How bad life's going to be. Like, they're really like going after us. They're really going to make our lives completely miserable. You people are doing it to yourselves. And people like you, suris, who are allies, you're not even trans. And you're like stirring that up in other people. I think this is far more to do with people like fucking suris and people like Erin Reed and all those other scaremongering fucks than it does with the fucking laws that are largely a backlash to an overreach that people like this sign off on. It's disgusting to me.
Penalty on dead rodent? No. Very simply put, you let the victims eliminate themselves.
Yeah, so it's not a genocide then.
It's a beautiful solution, is it not? You didn't do it. They did it. There was something in their house that needed...
Mate, less of them will be committing suicide if you closed your fucking channel. That's the truth. Because you're scaremongering people. You're freaking people out. You're freaking out because you're a gamp. So this technically affects you. And you want to bring other people down to your level. That's what's actually happening here. People like you are partly responsible for what we're seeing on the screen right now.
Needed sorting out, not yours. There was something that they needed to solve, not you. How do you exterminate a group in 2025? In the most effective but invisible way possible? You caused a 72% increase in their suicide rate.
Sorry, my camera was blocking this. This is what I'm talking about specifically. Anti-transgender laws cause up to... I mean, they don't cause it. There's a coincidence here. 72% increase in suicide attempts. What I'm saying is people like this are actually more the reason than anything else. Because people are scaremongering each other. People are gassing each other up about how terrible life's going to be. Instead of just trying to get on with it and like take solace in what they have near and dear to them. I live on fucking Turf Island. Do you know I haven't tried to kill myself? It's because I don't think life is not worth living because I'm trans in fucking Turf Island. And it's not actually that bad here, so I don't know.
And how do you do that? By putting forth every single ounce of legislation you possibly can.
So people are going to start killing themselves because Boise University volleyball team, doesn't want trans people in there. Or because they're tightening like they're tightening the definitions of sex and gender to mean a specific thing. This is utterly ridiculous. And you can see why he's not actually going into these bills properly. Because they're all nothing. Like, I mean, I don't see him talk about them anywhere. I suppose if he does, then, like, more fool me, but, like, still. What is this? Is this Erin in the morning? Creating a shared language of genocide prevention across the globe. Lemkin Institute. Listen, shame on you. Is it Lemkin Institute? Growing number of laws. Like, this seems captured as fuck to me. This seems utterly captured. This will be the thing that he's looking at. This doesn't mean that it's a genocide just because the Lemkin Institute are, like, sounding the alarm.
A red flag alert for the anti-trans agenda of the Trump administration, specifically from the Lemkin Institute, who put that red flag alert up because, well, that means that we have hit a stage of genocide.
Yeah, according to someone who might not have their heads fucking screwed on straight. I don't know who the person that's making these decisions is. I guess I disagree with whoever it is.
Maybe that would add a few bits of weight to my words.
No, it doesn't. This is an appeal to authority. What else we got? I can't be bothered listening to him read a thing. How is he going to look at this stupid thing?
Elimination or the eradication of transgenderism, and then tried to say that this is not calling for the elimination of transgender people.
Because it's not, because he sees them as two different things. Do you ever try listening to what people say? No, of course you don't.
But there's no way that you could do that. You cannot eliminate Christianity without eventually trying to get rid of all of the Christians. It is simply not possible. You can't...
So is trans a religion or not? Is transgenderism comparable to a religion or is it not?
can't get rid of atheism without, at some point, having to kill the atheists who don't.
I mean, he said in public life as well. Like, he's speaking about, like, specific usages. So we're kind of... Like, let me just get the quote, because someone else mentioned it in chat. Michael Knowles. So what's the actual quote? Oh, from public life entirely. Yeah, there we go. So he's not saying eliminate everyone who privately identifies as something other than what they technically are. So I don't know, man. You wanted to eradicate Christianity from public life. It'd be like, you know, symbols in fucking the street. It'd be like, you know, Christian influence on like laws and stuff and that kind of thing. Not the actual people. He's just lying.
Don't convert. Were it just me arguing that this is a thing that the administration is doing, then yeah, you could write me off as the next Alex Jones crackpot. And I wouldn't even fault you for it.
I already am, don't worry.
But it's not just me. It's globally respected organizations who make it their job to research this. I gathered all of my examples for this on my own, independently. But people who are not working autodidactically as a single individual, who have academic backing far and above what I have, experts in their field, are saying the same thing.
Experts, wow. Amazing. Oh, experts are saying it. Sorry, I completely changed my mind. Wow. God, how much dead air? You're on 2x speed. Jesus fuck.
It's not just me saying it. There are 10 steps to genocide, and there is one more step that you, yes, you, have probably actively engaged in. This step can only happen after step 9 has already happened. I believe we are...
Which it isn't happening and hasn't happened.
We're at step 9. But we are at step 9 in a way that most people...
Mate, you didn't manage to successfully convince me we're at stage 1. What's step 1 again? Classification. Like, they haven't really done any of that to us, because we do it to ourselves. I guess they're trying to change, like, the classification somewhat. But it's not an us versus them thing. It's saying, your biology is this and you can't change it, which is just true. Experts can be ideologically driven as well. Very true, very true. This person is the reason my trans friend thinks the SWAT team is going to knock down their doors. Yes, exactly. They're scaremongering. This person is a fearmonger. Like, he's freaking out. He wants you to freak out. This is his way of doing it. By scaremongering about a genocide that is not fucking happening.
People would not consider. People can argue that we are at step 9 of genocide for the Gazans because, of course, Israel is actively trying to hunt them down. We can argue that we
Is that even true? I thought they were trying to get rid of Hamas. Hamas and Gazans are not the same thing, but okay.
are at step 9 for the Ukrainians because, obviously, Russia is trying to eliminate them.
Is Russia trying to genocide Ukraine? I thought they were trying to take some of their land. Why does this guy talk about any of this? He's a fucking retard. Why not just talk about lolly and video games or something? Things you actually look like you know anything about. Why, like, politics and, like, war and genocide and stuff? Why trans people? Why do you have to talk about trans people? Just talk about what you like to beat off like everyone else. Beat off too, sorry. Like everyone else that looks like you does. I do wonder if I spoke to this person, were they willing to listen or... fuck knows. I don't have any real hope for any of these people. I've spoken to Alec Gunter, I've spoken to First Amanda. Both instances it was pretty fucking dire. And like, Amanda was at least kind of civil, but then kind of completely revoked that afterwards because he's a little pussy and couldn't just say what he thought to my fucking face.
But my argument for step 9 here is that a smart administration that wants to eliminate people without dealing with global backlash would do so invisibly. They would do so utilizing a method that they are able to wipe their hands clean from. And persecuting people to the point where they kill themselves.
Mate, you're actually worse. You're the one that's like convincing people that maybe they should end their life because of how scary everything is. When people could just try living their lives and focusing on what's near and dear to them. I don't know, man. I can't remember the last time I felt suicidal because I dedicate some of my life to just what's around me and like spend time with my partner. and spend time doing things I don't know about enjoy, but like get something out of. Make things, you know. People like this are more complicit if there is a genocide than anyone, because you're the ones pushing people over the edge. I'd be willing to bet that most of these TRAs have some kind of a body count. That someone has been pushed over the edge by anything that any one of these people has said. In any case, I bet he has. I bet someone has attempted suicide because of something that Suris has said. Because he fearmongers. Because he makes things sound like they're worse than they are. He brings up this trans bills. I have this criticism I make of everyone that brings this up, that they just do it to show a huge number, what seems like a huge number, which isn't even that big, considering how many bills get introduced, largely that get rejected. The statistic is BS and ideation is different from actual suicide. To be fair, this statistic that was given was like suicide attempts. Obviously, you've got the Trevor Project to pretty ideologically capture themselves. You've got the fact that it's going to be based on testimonial. There's every chance you're going to get people saying that they've tried to kill themselves when they haven't, to try and make things sound worse than they are, to try and influence things in a certain way. It's not very trustworthy. If all of this is true, the Democrats have been an active participant in the genocide of trans people the last 4 years. Yeah, I mean, fucking everyone has. And so is this. If there's a genocide, this person is an active participant because he is like fear-mongering. He is freaking people out. Like, hang on. I started crying. Like, you're upsetting people. People talking about they can't even leave. Like, you might well just be fine anyway. You don't know what's going to happen. The Doge raids a cover for stage 7 preparation. Okay, bro. Okay, you have the pedo flag in your thing. Why would I listen to you? We called it years ago, did you though? Resistance is resistance. Am I still crazy? Am I still overreacting? Yes, and you are being driven crazy by this fuck. Oh my god.
Or otherwise fully eliminated from society because they are too afraid to come out into that society, that is most certainly enough for me to support a stage 9 hypothesis. But what is stage 10? Well, stage 10 is denial. The perpetrators, or later generations, deny the existence of any crime. Evidence gets destroyed, witnesses get intimidated. There's also been an increase of Holocaust denial in recent years. This goes back to Nick Fuentes' cookie problem.
Has there been an increase in Holocaust denial, or like people disagreeing on how the Holocaust went down? Because those aren't even the same thing. You can't even get your tangents correct. This is one of the worst creators on the entire fucking YouTube. You can join his channel and also get fearmongered. At least you can get some of your money before you try and fucking kill yourself, because he's driven you insane. Oh, hi. I watch you sometimes little by little. I wonder what's your position on trans community. You're critiquing it, but I don't grasp everything because of language. I mean, I have no problem with trans people. I'm trans myself. I think there's like overreach. I think there's excesses. I think things like pushing trans on kids is not good. I'm against things like trans women in women's sports. Leave the kids alone. I think we should stop lying about people that care about things like women's rights, people like J.K. Rowling, things like that. I hope that explains a little bit. I hope you're good. The glasses. It's like wanting your D&D character to have like a wheelchair or something. I don't know. We were talking about escapism in video games earlier, but hey.
Never heard that. I can summarize it for you, though.
Did I say YouTube? Maybe I do say YouTube. What's wrong with that?
We have 5 years to bake 6 million cookies, and we only have a handful of cookie factories. And even if we were cooking multiple cookies in every oven all the time, I can't possibly think of a way.
I don't give a shit about this. Who cares what Nick Fuentes thinks? Really? Like, really? Who gives a fuck what Nick Fuentes thinks?
50501. You can go here. There are people who are constantly posting places that they are wanting to organize, get together, get connected, and protest.
Oh, we got the organization shit. This will be all the crazy fucking activist types that I don't want anywhere near me anyway. They're all organizing on Reddit. You're fucked, mate. the best thing you can do is just shut the fuck up about this issue forevermore.
You can actually do this over on Mobilize as well, right over here.
This is all a waste of time. Like petitions. I'm very like skeptical that protests do much of anything, quite frankly. Petitions, we already know, are complete fucking waste of time. I just don't... All of this is completely unnecessary. Just try and actually live your fucking life. And don't listen to idiots like this.
Now, I'm going to let you know that my opinion on protests is very simple. They do not change dick all.
But you're promoting a thing that's about protests and petitions and stuff, when protests don't do fuck all in your opinion.
Protests are a way to organize people together so that they, together, can have a moment of grieving, a moment of shared identity.
What's the point?
In this way, I would argue that protest is a step one. You go to a protest, you meet people, and then you use that as a springboard to plan other action afterwards.
Yeah, the problem is the kind of people you meet on protests are all fucking idiots. So I don't care. And like how they're obsessed with one-day boycotts. Yeah, they can't do shit. And they know they can't do shit. So they're just like, well, just do whatever you can, I guess. Just like, have a fucking panic attack. Like, the best thing anyone can do is just unsubscribe from this fuck. Like, preserve your mental health. Try switching off from this shit. Tracking these bills. Obsessively checking shit like this. You can't do anything about these bills. And it's only going to make your mental health worse. Listening to fucking idiots like this. Going hell for leather trying to prove that there's a genocide happening. This is like ruinous for people's mental health. Like I said, I think people like this have a body count probably. If not him, then someone similar. How many people have read like Aaron Reed articles? And started feeling overwhelmed, feeling like there's no point fucking living. Because all this shit is like too much. When actually a lot of this is very nebulous and very esoteric. Plenty of these bills have no impact on anyone's life anyway. Pretty much. Like one of them is just a safeguard for some university sports team. Others are potentially protecting kids from making decisions that they're going to regret later in life. Because they're sterilizing themselves. Are we trying to protect people from being genocided? It doesn't make any fucking sense.
Obviously, you can participate in multiple protests. Feels good. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, go waste your time at protests. Suris thinks it's a great idea.
But once more, a protest doesn't do anything. It puts people together, and it lets a message get out there if the media is paying attention to you. And sometimes getting the media to pay attention to you requires things like...
Yeah, and as if trans echo chambers haven't been a huge problem this entire time. Let's get more people together who are completely insane.
burning down Wendy's, which moves it from a protest to a riot. But I do think that organizing to do so still has its use, because many of you feel isolated. Many of you feel atomized. Many of you in this audience likely feel so fragmented from your fellow American that you wouldn't even know how to talk to them in the slightest. Hell, I know without games like Magic the Gathering, I wouldn't know how to either. That's where the other half of Mobilize comes in.
This is who you're listening to. A guy who needed Magic the Gathering to learn how to speak to other humans. Fuck off, bro. What?
Mobilize, and by another bit of extension, the Democratic Socialists of America, can be...
the DSA. Do you remember the DSA? Does anyone remember the DSA? Does anyone remember these people? Does anyone remember these people?
Right.
Quick point of privilege. Quick point of personal privilege.
Yes.
Guys, first of all, James Jackson, Sacramento, he, him. I just want to say, can we please keep the chatter to a minimum? I'm one of the people who's very, very prone to sensory overload. There's a lot of whispering and chatter going on. It's making it very difficult for me to focus. Please, can we just, I know we're all fresh and ready to go, but can we please just keep the chatter to a minimum? It's affecting my ability to focus. Thank you.
Thank you, comrade. Okay, is there a speaker against name, chapter, pronoun?
Point of personal privilege.
Now he's preying on people's social anxiety. Yes. Listen, does that mean I can call this guy a predator? Not a sexual predator, but kind of one nonetheless.
Yes.
Please do not use gendered language to address everyone.
Okay.
Quick point of privilege once again. Hi, James Jackson, Sacramento DSA, he, him. I have already asked people to be mindful of the chatter of their comrades who are sensitive to sensory overload, and that goes double for the heckling and the hissing. It is also triggering to my anxiety. Like, the be comradely isn't just for, like, you know, let's keep things civil or whatever. It's so that people aren't going to get triggered and so that it doesn't affect their performance as a delegate, okay? Your need to express yourself is important, but your need to express yourself should not trump or over...
I see that no one's clapping for me. It could be because I'm not engaging, but it also is because everyone's doing this. And that's really important because those loud bursts of noise, even though this is a noisy space, when we can do something like reducing that, that's really important. So please don't clap, shoot up these. We have a lot of disabled comrades, and a lot of those are invisible disabilities. You don't know who it is that is having a more difficult time navigating this space, and this space was not created with all of their needs in mind. So it's up to us to modify that space.
I wonder, because this like genocide shit was going around a couple of years ago, I wonder if people kind of pulled back on it because they realized that the Dems were in charge and they're the ones, I guess, technically being, the buck stops there, right? You know, I wonder if they've like started renewing it now because of Trump coming in. I suppose the renewment also comes from like the executive orders and the new laws, but these laws have been happening. Like, they were still happening in 2024. They were still happening in 2023. They still happen. Just interesting to think about.
Space to make sure that everybody is able to move in the ways that they need to move. And additionally with the noise issue, like avoid hissing, avoid...
Okay, thank you so much. I don't know how to say your name. I'm so sorry. But thank you for watching.
Waving banners, right? Because there's all sorts of things. If you don't know what to do, show up these, right? I'm sure there's lots of ways that we can communicate to each other without needing to rely on something that's going to hurt somebody else. We have quiet rooms that are available. There's a range of options of these, right? Please don't go in that space with anything that's like an aggressive scent, for instance, right? Because we don't want to put people in stressful situations that they don't consent to, right? And there are right.
Listen, I have very severe misophonia. I can't stand being around people when they're making certain noises. I've always treated it like it's my problem and not everyone else's. I guess this is like the logical extreme of going the other way. I don't know.
Right-wing infiltrators who are trying to get in here, but it's going to be really traumatic for people if we're not making an affirmative effort to de-escalate each other and de-escalate ourselves, right? Take a deep breath.
That's an insult to trauma, quite frankly.
And feel better before you say anything. Don't really talk to anybody who doesn't have a credential, especially if they claim to be from the press. You have no idea who that person is. Please do not talk to anybody who identifies themselves as a member of the press without having credentials. Don't talk to cops. Don't talk to MAGA assholes. We're almost there. Just this.
Oh no, they made noise. Who funded this? I don't know. Whoever was funding the DSA back in 2018. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? I guess they have their own. Maybe they have their own funds. I don't know.
Thank you. We are going to be visited tomorrow by some MAGA protesters. Is there anybody here who's done abortion clinic escort work? By all means, don't talk to cops if there are cops there for any reason at all, right? And if you do see someone talking to cops, let the marshals know. We are safe and we are strong because there's power in collective work.
Listen, there's a much longer version of this, but yeah, that's the DSA. At least that was the DSA in 2018. I don't know what they're like these days. But yeah, those are the people that suris thinks you should get down with. Democratic Socialists of America. There you go. Socialism is not going to happen in America, I don't think.
Be used to get you in contact with your local Democratic chapters or your local Socialist chapters. Now, to those of you who are not part of my regular audience, but still stuck it through to this end of the video, you've probably heard the word socialist and put up your red flags. I'll do another video on what socialism is and why it's a good thing if you want me to, but the end thing that I will say is you've probably got a lot of dirty words that your government has told you were bad, but your government is currently engaging in a genocide, so maybe they're not the big...
I don't know, man. I've met a lot of socialists. Most of their worldviews seem extremely incoherent. When I say I think it's bad, it's because it's never been shown to work anywhere. It's never Never been explained in a way that makes sense to me as to how the fuck it would work. Like, some people just seem to think the government should just run everything. I don't think that's a good idea. I think government should run what the government's good at, and they probably shouldn't run things they're not so good at. But yeah, I don't know. It's never been really explained to me in a way that makes sense. And it's never worked anywhere, so hey, I don't know. And by the way, Scandinavian countries aren't actually socialist. They're still capitalist countries. They use elements of socialism, sure. There's probably elements of socialism I agree with. Funded at least partially by ActBlue or George Soros as well as other sources. Hey, yeah, maybe.
Biggest arbiters of what's good and what's bad right now. Just saying. These websites, Mobilize and Democratic Socialists of America, can get you involved in your local communities and local chapters of people who are politically involved. If you don't know what to do, get involved in these organizations. Trust me, people who have been doing this for years in these orgs will help you know what to do. They will help you know where protests are happening. They will help you know which people they are trying
Which you don't believe in anyway.
to back politically. And if your goal is to do what I think you should be doing, and that is taking away power from the Democrats that are currently in office by replacing them with people that still have the D tag for voting reasons.
Like, how? How are you going to do that? I think I mentioned this before when I watched him before. Take away, like, get rid of certain people. Like, how? All you can do is vote. And you're contending with a much larger voter base of, like, liberals and centrists who don't want these, like, far left lunatics in the blue party. You know what I mean?
But are going to actively fight against this genocide as opposed to sit back and say, I don't know what we need to do, which
It's not a genocide.
has been said by major Democrats in the last 2 months, which has pissed me off. This is your way of taking that power away from them. You get it as bad for voting reasons, but are going to actively fight against this genocide as opposed to sit back and say, I don't know what we need to do, which has been said by major Democrats in the last.
I'll tell you what you can do. Start taking the L on sports and kids and stuff like that. Try starting there. Try actually fucking compromising.
Last 2 months, which has pissed me off. This is your way
Of course it's pissed you off because you're a child.
taking that power away from them. You get to be directly involved with the canvassers that push them, and you can be directly involved in being the person the canvassers push. This gives you a maximum amount of power
Oh my god, he actually scrolls down on the thing maybe.
over those politicians that are trying to them with how you feel about recent anti-trans legislation. Make it a habit, figure out the names of those to go over to the anti-trans bill tracker and see which bills are currently being used.
Yeah. But the problem is when you look at them, a lot of them, a bunch of these are not even going to fucking happen. More often than not, they're not going to pass. And B, the ones that have passed, which you can check very easily on this very website, are like nothing.
Figure out the names of those bills. They're always numbered. They're always public. Figure out who sponsored those bills, whichever one you want to argue against, and then go on to 5 calls and resist bot and give that politician hell. I am saying harass the fuck out of them.
Harass politicians that disagree with you. You're calling for brigading and harassment. By the way, you can join this guy's fucking... You can be a member of his fucking thing. I tell you what, I understand probably why I might never get to that position. Why YouTube might not want to have anything to do with me. But you've got some guy here who's openly calling to harass people. What happens if you call for people to harass someone that pushed a bill that you don't like? And they take that one step further? Fucking nail bomb in the mail. Or show up to their house. Is this loser involved in anything besides sitting in his desk chair, fear-mongering mentally ill people behind an avatar? I have no idea. I don't know too much about this person. I don't wish to know too much about this person. I watch him once in a while, and he says the most retarded shit with absolutely no prompting. This is an awful video, and he is now calling for harassment of politicians. Listen, there's a lot of politicians I don't like very much. I don't believe in harassment like ever. I don't think you should harass this guy, even though I think he's a piece of shit. I don't think you should harass anyone. I wouldn't want to see people that watch me harassing other people. I'm not down with that, like, ever. I can't think of any reason why I'd want someone to go harass someone. Like, I don't know. I kind of learned this lesson when I was in my fucking teens. Like, harassing people using, like, internet means. It's not a good thing to do. And it kind of blew my mind, realizing that plenty of other people have just never learned that lesson. Never sent a bunch of emails to someone they don't like and then got in trouble for it. Like, it should be fucking obvious.
Argue against, and then go on to 5 calls and resist bot and give that politician hell. I am saying harass the fuck out of them. If they want to be part of the genocidal process, then they can be part of the reason they're talking. Then you can be part of the reason.
Yeah, here we go. What is it? Oh, his trans partner almost definitely fucking agrees with everything here. Probably gets most of this stuff from them, let's be real. There's justified bullying. That's all there is. And your justification sucks. You didn't show that it's a genocide. Oh my god, it's actually gross. You haven't shown there's a genocide, so now harass people because of the genocide that you couldn't show by any means.
That they're having to talk to a goddamn therapist. Part of the reason that they're having to talk to a goddamn saying harass the fuck out of them. If they want to be part of the genocidal process, then they can be part of the reason they're talking to then you can be part of the reason that they're having to talk to a goddamn therapist.
You can be part of the reason they're having to talk to a therapist. Okay, you sound like a terrorist now. You're not even trans. What a piece of shit. Fucking lolicon terrorist motherfucker. He looks absolutely nothing like this avatar, just like his other fucking little child lolly porn avatar with way too big tits that he probably whacks off to, let's be real.
So,
imagine thinking harassing someone will get them to change their opinion, not get them to double down. Yeah, it's true. Does harassing work? Does harassing fat people in the street, hey fatty, lose some fucking weight, does that work? I'm not aware that it works. If you ask someone like Suris here, he would probably say, no, it doesn't work. You shouldn't fat shame people. That won't make them lose weight. I'd probably agree with that. Politicians probably get harassed fucking all the time. Harassment will just make the politicians make worse, but yeah, maybe. Listen, if there's already a overcorrection, this is what I mean. I don't like the kind of escalation that I'm seeing from that like Texas bill. That it seems that they're kind of escalating because the other side has. And now we want to escalate even more. This doesn't work. This is a bad thing. And this guy isn't even fucking trans.
there are obviously other things that you could be doing that I have not listed here. If you have any ideas that you want to put forward, I check my comment section. Feel free.
Here's my idea. Delete your channel. Get the fuck off the internet. Never talk about trans people or anything that means anything again. And stop whacking off to lolly porn.
Free to let me know in the comment section below.
Listen, I don't actually know that he whacks off to lolly porn. I personally think he does, but I have no evidence. Just to be clear. Just to be clear.
But let's go ahead and get one thing clear. We have gone through every single stage.
God, how slow must his streams be? I'm on 2x speed, and it's like... Hang on, let me just try something. Listen, I'm sorry. I don't need to take anything seriously at this point.
We have gone through every single stage.
It's worse than Caffles. Remember Caffles with like the psychomotor retardation thing? That's what he sounds like. How are you talking this slowly and pausing this much? Holy shit.
To at least some degree. And it's only going to get worse from here. So your two options right now, if you are in America, are fight for your rights or leave.
That's not even true. You can get on with your life. You don't even know what's going to happen. You're utterly nuts. Fight for your life. There's not a fucking genocide. And you're saying the genocide happens because they're making people kill themselves. Then just don't kill yourself. Then just find things to live for. It's not hard. Fuck me. He sounds like a kid learning how to read.
The other options are death.
I mean, looking at his IRL self, I can see why one would think he whacks the character lolicon. He just looks the type, that's all. I don't actually know anything to suggest that this guy is like pedophilic in any way. He just looks the type. I have no evidence, to be clear. I just think there's not nothing to this, you know? There's a non-zero chance. Yes, that was 2 times speed. And you slow him down and it's like, I'm speaking words and eventually I'll get on to another sentence. He might be on drugs, yeah, who knows?
Don't be part of a statistic. That is what these people have been aiming for from the beginning.
Yeah, but it's not though, is it?
If you want to check out me covering stuff like this in the future, please consider going over to either my Twitch channel or my YouTube channel. Subscribe if you haven't already.
There's a genocide. I'd probably be dead 8 years ago. Yeah, right. This guy is straight presenting white male. According to these people, he's the most privileged in the country and arguably globally. Well, that's what these people kind of weaponize. It's like, well, I'm a privileged white male, but I'm sticking up for your rights and stuff. Oh, cis people are more likely to take me seriously than you, so I should... Jesus fuck. His trans girlfriend is actually 11, but mentally 21. I mean, usually with trans people, it's the other way around. That's a joke. That's a joke. Lots of trans people are not stupid. What rights does he feel the need to fight for that he doesn't already have? Well, he's not even trans, so... I don't know. Just don't kill yourself. That's fine, isn't it? I just link searcher. I'm stopping in a sec. I'm so sorry.
There's ways to support the channel if you want. I also talk about magic if you want to get away.
I tell you what, you wanna support the channel. Why are they cosplaying as Aaron in the morning dressed up as a cat squirrel? Because this person is a quasi-pedophile. Allegedly, in my opinion. I tell you what, if you want to support his stream, I tell you what you do. You check the links in my description. Check out my music links. Listen to my music. You can listen on Spotify. You can super chat on Streamlabs. You might want to do that next time because I'm stopping shortly. You can join my Discord. What we were watching, there is a genocide in the US by Suris. Guess what genocide he's talking about? Guess which people are getting genocide, apparently? Nope, trans people.
From these kinds of conversations. As always, everyone. Answered in the video tagline here. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. I really could not do any of this without all of you. Those of you watching and...
Yeah, there we go. So, we have completely failed to show that there is a genocide in the US. This person is either grifting, he doesn't actually believe there's a genocide in the US, but knows that he can make a clickbait video with a clickbait title that's inflammatory and will make people click on it. I mean, this is one of his best viewed videos in quite a while, if I remember rightly. It's either that or he's genuinely insane and thinks that this shit is actually happening because there's an
Stop says some of that fan art lore is...
Shut up. Because there's an anti-trans bill tracker that says there's a whole bunch of... Because there's an anti-trans bill tracker that suggests that there is 1/10 of the total amount of bills currently active in Texas against trans people. So far, of which about half have passed, and most of which have been nothing. But this guy never actually looked at any of them in isolation. Never actually looked at the details. So, I don't know, man. I don't know, man. This person, there is at least one person that's tried to kill themselves because something that he said has, like, made their life feel worthless. Because that's what they're doing. They're making you feel like it's hopeless. There's nothing you can do. Why do people kill themselves? Because they feel hopeless. You're fostering those feelings. Suris the skeptic. I'm talking to you directly, fine, fucking whatever. You never watch this anyway. You're fostering those very feelings. You're complicit in your own fucking defined genocide. Frankly. And yeah, you can see it worked. This guy's been nothing for a long time. I mean, the Elon Musk thing. Like, this is what he looks like, by the way. This is what he looks like. We've got fat white Mutahar. Like, yeah. This shit works. Scaremongering works. It's a whole grift.
That's fine.
And this is what the cat girl, little lolly, big titty, goth GF, whatever. This is what they actually look like. And by the way, he's like 2 years younger than me, if not more. I'm older than this person. This blew my mind. I thought he was in his fucking 40s. Anyway, there we go. Suris, absolutely abhorrent content creator, scaremonger, piece of shit, loser, grifter, asshole, liar. Yeah, he does look like White Mutar, like, so much. Jesus fucking Christ. Anyway, I need to stop in a sec. We have company. And that doesn't happen that often, surprisingly enough. Yeah, that's this lolicon VTuber. Like, you see this little lolly in the corner where my thing is? That's how he presents himself a lot of the time. Like that. You could be his dad. Yeah, no, Jesus Christ. You look younger than he does. But yeah. Should I transition to not look like that? Listen, I don't suggest to anyone that they should transition. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I need to stop. Have a good one. We'll hopefully watch something that will make me slightly less crazy than what this did. I missed the Solari video. Compared to this, the Solari video was fucking delightful. Jesus Christ. There we go. You wanna make me not dislike you as a bread tuber? Just have me watch your video and then watch someone like Suris. That's how it works. Suddenly, I think Solari is great by comparison. Jesus Christ, bring him back. Where's he gone? Anyway. Thank you so much for watching. I love you all. Have a good one. See you later. Bye.